Hi, welcome to Old Bird New Tricks. I'm Amanda Pennick, and today we're talking about behavior modification. I'm going to be throwing in some big words, but bear with me, I know you guys can handle them. When we're dealing with behaviors, we're looking at the antecedent, the behavior, and the consequence. And the antecedent is what happens directly before the behavior, and the consequence is what happens directly after. Now, consequences can be punishing or rewarding. If a consequence is punishing, it's going to decrease the frequency of the behavior. If a consequence is rewarding, it's going to maintain or increase the frequency of the behavior. Let's give you a quick example. Okay, so antecedent, a squirrel runs by the window. Behavior, Cooper, the blue and gold macaw, yelps. Consequence, the squirrel runs away. Now, in just that little scenario, we can't tell whether the squirrel running away is punishing or rewarding. But if we monitor the behavior over time, and we find that Cooper is consistently or more frequently yelping when the squirrel runs by, then the squirrel running away was a reward. It was positive. If the frequency of his yelping decreases, then the squirrel running away is punishing. Maybe he wants to sit and watch the squirrel. So he might stop yelping or yelp less frequently when he sees the squirrel because he wants it to stick around. As trainers, we often have control over the antecedent, and we occasionally have control over the consequence. When we're training and offering rewards after a behavior that we like, we're offering a positive. We're increasing the chance of the behavior occurring. Sometimes with animals, it's difficult for us to know what's going to be punishing and what's going to be rewarding, but we do have control over what we do prior to the behavior. So if I was to train Cooper in this room with this window, and I know that when that squirrel goes by, he's going to be distracted and this behavior chain will be set off, I can change the antecedent. I can close the window, or I can move Cooper to a spot where he can't see the window. So I've stepped in at the antecedent level before the behavior occurs to change it. This happens all the time. A lot of the times you might be doing it without even thinking about it. One of the things that happens when a bird starts exhibiting a behavior that is not pleasant, is not one that you would like to see, your first instinct is to think, how can I change this behavior? How can I change this bird from doing what it's doing? But a lot of the times the answer isn't in training the bird or changing the bird. The answer is looking at yourself, looking at the environment, and seeing how you can change or what you can change around the bird. An example of this that happens all the time, a lot of birds will bite and lunge and be unpleasant when you try to change their food dishes. So one solution, a training solution, you can train your bird to station at a perch in the back of the cage. Give them a nice sized reward like an almond to eat, and while they're stationing and eating their reward, you can change their dishes. Another option, one that I use with my green cheeks, is I take them out of the cage. If I need to change the dishes, wash the cage, hang up toys, I take my green cheeks and I either put them on top of their cage where they're less likely to bite me, or I put them on the cargo net in the window. So I've stepped in, I've changed the antecedent, and I am doing what I can to make sure the bite doesn't happen in the first place. One thing to remember with behaviors, especially undesired behaviors, every time they display that behavior, there is a chance for it to be rewarded. The more often it's rewarded, the more often that behavior is going to occur. But if you step in and do something prior to the behavior occurring that prevents it from happening, then the behavior can't be rewarded. So a lot of the times it's a very viable, a very reasonable option to consider how you or the environment can change rather than how your bird can change. Now I love training. It's wonderful. It opens up lines of communication. It reduces stress in your bird's life. It provides enrichment. It's in my mind an important part of any parrot-companion relationship. That said, if I can modify behavior through antecedent manipulation, through changing the environment or changing my own actions, then I'm going to do that, because it's often easier, and often what's happening is I am preventing my animal from being stressed. A lot of the times if your animal's biting or lunging or exhibiting these behaviors that are undesirable, it's because they're uncomfortable, they're stressed, they might be fearful, something's going on that they don't like. So instead of stepping in trying to train the animal to accept that thing that they don't like, especially if it's not a husbandry related or a vital environmental piece, then it's going to be easier just stop exposing that bird or that animal to that stimulus. Does that make sense? A little bit of a heavy topic today, one that requires a bit of thought. Sometimes it takes somebody else coming in and watching the behavior chain to see what antecedent can be manipulated. Sometimes it takes a little bit of self-reflection. But the next time you and your bird are having an error in communication, instead of wishing the bird would stop doing that or starting to consider a training plan to change the behavior, think about your own behavior. Think about the room. What is causing the behavior? What's the antecedent? Because if you can step in and change that, you can potentially break the behavior chain and start having a better relationship. Alright, well that's my video for today. It was a really quick one, but it's a topic I am going to revisit as it's really important and can always be added to. Have a great long weekend, and we'll see you soon. Bye.